I'll tell you guys, what a beautiful spring day. Early spring in North Georgia. Things are starting to turn green. Winter's disappearing. But tonight, we're going to talk about a very interesting cryptid. Y'all hang tight.
Welcome to Rolling with T-Bone Presents Cryptids, UFOs, and Paranormal Stories. I hope that you enjoy.
All right, guys. Now, as you can see, before we get started here, there is a new hat on Rolling with T-Bone, and it is a Harley Davidson hat. So I'm increasing my gear. I still don't have a Harley Davidson t-shirt. One other announcement, guys. Keep your eyes open in a future episode of Rolling with T-Bone, because I have been invited, meaning the Rolling with T-Bone family, we have been invited to cover an episode for the Nom Nights doing a motorcycle presentation. So keep your eyes on that. That'll be coming real soon on the channel. So the year was 1893, and a man came into Rylander, Wisconsin. A man with a pretty incredible story. He went to the local newspaper man, and he sat down and he began to tell about a fantastic creature. A creature he reported as being about 7.5 feet long, weighing close to 1,200 pounds, with a head kind of like the shape of a frog, a smile kind of like an elephant, had spikes running from its head all the way down to its back, big horns, big teeth, big fangs, and at the end of its tail had big claws. And this man was a lumberjack. He was a land surveyor. But oddly enough, he was also known as a prankster. But no matter what happened in 1893 when that newspaper report came out, another legend was born. The legend of the Hodag. All right, guys, so as you can see, Jazz has went back convertible. Oh, I took her windshield off, getting her ready for the summertime travels. Oh, I do not like riding behind the windshield. Oh, that's mobile. So much better to not be behind the windshield. But anyway, guys, welcome in. If you guys don't care, if you make it all the way through to the end of the video, there will be a couple of channel announcements coming up at the end of this video. But what an absolutely gorgeous weather, guys. Just, man, April in North Georgia, when the dogwoods are blooming, because where we are right now in the timeline in April is we are coming into dogwood winter, which means next week our temperatures will drop. We'll have a couple of kind of frosty mornings, and our temperatures will go back down a little bit overnight and into the early morning. Then the daytime temperatures they'll run to about 60 or so, and then mid 60s, and then we'll warm back up, which will lead in here in about 3 weeks to our last little kind of cold snap that we'll go through, which is blackberry winter. But right now we're enjoying beautiful, beautiful, sunny, warm weather. Gosh, and I'm ready for it, guys. It has been a long, cold winter, but we are not here to talk about the weather. 1893, guys, the legend of the Hodag was born. You know, and I've said it, and you guys know this, because especially those of y'all who've been moving for a while, y'all know that I'm a history buff. And in a lot of my historical research, the end of the 19th century, getting ready to come into the 20th century, meaning leaving the 1800s behind, 1893, guys, we were on the cusp of the 20th century. Of course, we would have to go through 2 world wars, but we were on the cusp of motorcycles being invented. Ford was playing around with the Model A The Industrial Revolution was just around the corner. And what a great time to study history from a historical standpoint. What a great time to be studying the history, especially of North America and England and London and Paris, because very much even in America, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, big society cities. The end of the 19th century through the late 1800s was Paris, France was all the rage, and the latest Paris fashions were being brought over in ships, and they were being sold to society, high society people in Boston and Philadelphia. Man, from a historical research and historical standpoint, what a great time. But can you imagine now being in Wisconsin? Of course, Wisconsin up at the top of the country. And again, I want to thank Brown Chicken. This was his request. He requested the Hodag and went right to work to get the information. Now, I had heard of course, the Hodag. A few years ago, actually, and I didn't really give the Hodag any kind of, I put him up there with I put him kind of in the same package that I put the Jersey Devil and the Mothman. I kind of knew about them, but I never really gave them any study, because at the time that I think I heard of the Hodag, I was really into Sasquatch research. And I'll tell you another one that I was really into at that time was Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. But could you imagine now, we're going back to that 19th century, 1893. We've not even reached the 20th century yet. Can you imagine the look on the newspaper man's face, and then the subsequent look on the people of Ryland, Wisconsin, when the story of the Hodag emerged in their newspaper? Now, the description that I gave was the exact description that Eugene Shepard gave when he made the report. Now, Eugene was known to kind of be a prankster, meaning that, again, you're before technology, and you're in the wilderness, you're logging, you're doing logging and you're lumbering, and the only time you might actually get to see people is when you come into town to resupply. So you would get in these groups, and then in the late evening, after you've logged all day, you start making up tales and stories and folklore, and you start doing all this stuff just to pass the time. So when he originally told the story, the newspaper man picked it up, wrote the story on the Hodag. Once Eugene seen that it was gaining traction, that people were really interested in this creature, he leaned into it. He got some of the town people together, I'm sure trusted friends of his, and it is said that they went searching for the Hodag. They found it, of course, and he said that they had to use chloroform on a sponge on a stick to knock it out, and essentially they ended up having to kill it with dynamite. And then the very first picture, the historical picture, was taken with Shepard and the men from the hunting party, along with the Hodag. The Hodag was on display. Now, in that, I learned a little bit about the Hodag, that the Hodag that was used for that picture, of course you can look at that picture and tell that it's not real. It was said that Hackman, or that Gene, I'm thinking Gene Hackman, that Gene Shepard, had commissioned a taxidermist to use skins from other animals, sew them together to make the Hodag, and then add parts as needed, such as the spikes that ran down its back to its tail, the fangs, the red eyes, the mashed in face. But from that initial report, the legend of the Hodag began to build. Kind of like a story today. One part of it gets told, and then as time goes on, other parts of it starts getting added to. And of course, with the Hodag, there would be no difference. Now, and keep it in mind, people in Rhineland who talk about Gene Shepard in a historical reference, they don't really have a whole lot of nice things, good things to say about the guy. He was, the way I understood it, he kind of, he died alone, he was broke, he was an alcohol abuser. He died in the 1920s. But, you know, very sad that his life went that way, because he essentially gave Ryland, Wisconsin, their claim to fame. The Hodag, I don't know why I keep on calling it the Hodag. The Hodag was their golden ticket. That was Willy Wonka's golden ticket for this little town in Wisconsin. Now, the next kind of big sighting would come from a man named Jerry Shadell. Now, Jerry is a boat captain up there in that area, and he does Hodag tours. Now, Jerry's story doesn't really mirror Gene's story, but his story is kind of fun. And the way I watched the documentary with Jerry on it, and man, you could tell that this guy is a master storyteller. He knows how to spin the yarn, as they say. But his story goes that he was out walking in the woods, just taking a leisurely stroll, enjoying the evening, not really thinking about a whole lot of much of anything. And then he runs across the Hodag. Now, his report is that the Hodag jumps up on a log, looks at him, and of course the description is typical Hodag description. 7.5 foot long, very heavy, face kind of like a frog, big wide mouth like an elephant, fangs, spikes down its back, spikes on its tail, huge claws on the end of its feet, short legs, the whole 9 yards. And he basically turned and ran, is the way he told it, hoping that the Hodag would not pursue him. But he is one of their big storytellers about the Hodag up there in Wisconsin. And of course, now the Hodag is one of the cryptids or creatures that still gets seen even to this day. Even to now, modern times, there's new stories of the Hodag that pops up from time to time. Tourists claim to see it. Young kids claim to see it. It's definitely unique. And what I mean by the Hodag being unique is it's one of these stories that comes out of folklore that no matter what you say about it, or no matter what you prove to be fact or fiction about it, it still endures. And man, the Hodag is definitely enduring. He is not going away. And you have to give a big cool to Ryland. They have leaned into the legend, making the Hodag their mascot. I mean, he's on their patrol cars. There's a big statue of him in the town. They didn't shy away from it because, like I said a minute ago, Shepard had essentially gave them Willy Wonka's golden ticket. I mean, the Hodag has been featured in many, many stories. Even the J.K. Rowling adapted story of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them mentions Wisconsin, mentions the swamps and the water areas, which Ryland is about 10% swamps and waterways. So very much there is a lot of unpenetratable ground there. So, a place for a Hodag or a creature of that of that ilk to hide and to not be able to be found. But they leaned into it, and he has became their tourist attraction. I mean, they get a lot of tourists there, and the Hodag has become famous in that, not just outside the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. There was a whole episode of Scooby-Doo done on the Hodag. So he very much, just like the counterparts, the Chupacabra, he found a place in pop culture. And that kind of goes back to not just in North America, but all around the world. People's fascination with strange creatures. We covered Champ here recently. It seems like there's a fascination with these creatures because we want to be able to enjoy the unexplained. We want to be able to enjoy the unexplainable. And places like where the Mothman is, they built a statue and leaned into the legend. A lot of these towns and places around the world that have these cryptids that they have become famous for, such as the Jersey Devil, the Beast of Bray Road, and now the Hodag, they've leaned into it. They've made it part of their tourist trade. And I think that's very cool. I think that is very, very cool. And probably the two most famous to be done that is, of course, the Hodag and the Mothman. Point Pleasant, they leaned into the legend of the Mothman hard. And, of course, now they have leaned in Ryland. They have leaned in Rylander. They've leaned into the Hodag. Now, there is one other legend. And I have to get around to what the truth of the Hodag is here in just a little bit. But before I do, there's one other legend that kind of tells maybe the origin story of the Hodag. But I got to ease over here and get a little petrol, get a little drink for myself, and then we'll jump back into this legend. So y'all hang tight. It'll be just a split second. All right, guys, now that we've took care of that, this next little section, if you're animal sensitive, you might not want to listen to this next section. I'll put that disclaimer in here. But you got to remember, we're talking about the 19th century, the 1800s. With that, the lineage of the Hodag, and this was something that somebody put forward out there as kind of maybe an explanation of what the Hodag was. In that area of Wisconsin and the Great White North, where a lot of logging, the lumber business, the logging business was big. Unlike a lot of other places that would use mules or horses, they used oxen. Now, one explanation for the Hodag is that the Hodag is a vengeful spirit of a mistreated oxen. Now, like I said, I don't know that to be the truth, but they would often say that these lumberjacks were pretty hard on their oxen. That a lot of times they were malnourished, worked way too hard. So the Hodag kind of became a vengeful spirit for the oxen. But that's just one of the many things that people say about the Hodag. But let's kind of go ahead now and dig into just a little bit about what the actual truth of the Hodag may be. The truth of the Hodag, guys, even if you listen to the people in Wisconsin, everybody pretty well much believed, because of Mr. Shepard, Eugene Shepard, being a prankster, and of course putting the stuffed Hodag together and taking a picture of it with it. Even the people in Rylander will tell you that the Hodag is a hoax, that it's not a real creature. That's pretty well much, by and large, what they all say. Now, there are those who will lean toward the Hodag being a hoax, but there's also those who lean toward it not being a hoax. Now, what you got to ask yourself on the real side of the Hodag, to separate the fact from fiction, the real from not real. It wasn't until this Gene Shepard incident that the Hodag came into any kind of knowledge, public knowledge. And then, of course, it seems like over the years, as the reports of the Hodag kept coming in, new sightings, new reports, etc., that the people that were talking about the Hodag was pretty well much the storytellers, the people who were leaning into the legend for the tourist profit. So then that leads me back around to, they say that the Hodag is a hoax. But then you got to ask yourself the question, is it really a hoax, or is it just the people of Rylander saying it's a hoax to cut down on the scrutiny and ridicule and, you know, personal attacks about what they believe in? So, guys, is the Hodag a hoax? Or is it perhaps some kind of real creature? Or is it a vengeful spirit of an ox? Or is it a misidentified creature? The truth is, we'll never actually know, I don't imagine. But I have to lean toward this one being a hoax, because that's the way it's leaned toward by all the people who are involved with the story of the Hodag. But it serves as a reminder that a little bit of imagination, a little bit of willingness to put yourself out there to a story, you can come up with a pretty fantastic creature. And there's no doubt, when you look at the Hodag from then to now, the life that it's took on in pop culture, the fact that it is a mascot, and you have to then look at it and say, is a hoax creature maybe bigger and more popular than an actual cryptid, such as a Bigfoot or a Dogman? But yeah, man, I hope this ain't a trend. I hope we don't prove all of our cryptids to end up being hoaxes. That would be bad for the channel. But like I said, with the information and the research and everything that I've looked up and read and watched, kind of have to lean toward the Hodag being a hoax. And I hate that. But at the same time, I don't hate it, because it's actually good imagination, and it shows, it shows the spirit of a whole town that will just lean into it. Like I said, like with the Mothman. But yeah, guys, I guess that's going to get the Hodag into the history books as far as cryptids in North America goes. Oh, so we are getting to the end of the episode, guys. So I wanted to, I said I had a couple of announcements I want to make. Keep your eyes open in the near future. I have been invited by the Nom Knights, and as y'all know, who have been around for a while, I'm no stranger to shooting content with the Nom Knights. But I have been invited next week to a motorcycle presentation where they're going to be giving a veteran a motorcycle, and I have been asked to come and cover that event, and I'm very excited that the invitation was extended to me and you guys, the Rolling with T-Bone crew. So I will be dealing with that coming up next Saturday, which I think is April the 12th. I'd have to double check that, but be doing that, so y'all keep your eyes open for that content. And as of right now, guys, I haven't studied a specific cryptid, so I'm going to kind of leave it to you guys to drop down in the comments and give me the next cryptid that we cover. If we don't get one pretty soon, I may end up just having to pick one and do some research, but give me a cryptid. And I would really like with the Hodag and like the Michigan Dogman, I'd like to get the cryptid that is specific to your area, so I can do some research and we can make an episode out of it. So we'll see which way that goes. I know people are waiting for me also to lean in, do a paranormal stuff. I do have some things that I am looking at on that, and I am also putting together, believe it or not, being April, me and Nico, and I want to say a special thank you to Nico, my middle child. Nico put a lot of time into helping me do research on the Hodag. So Nico is going to be doing a lot of research going forward for Rolling with T-Bone. So I'm very excited to be working on that with my kid. Very cool. But we are already spitballing ideas for Halloween, guys. Because if y'all remember when I introduced the cryptids of North America last year at Halloween, I had started putting things together in April and May of last year. So we're already spitballing ideas. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Now that the weather's turned, we'll be getting rides in, and hopefully we still got the meetup May the 16th, 17th, and 18th with a ride May the 17th. The GAM, so y'all keep that in mind, keep that on your calendar. But I'll tell you what, guys, I think we're going to wrap this episode up and say it's shot. So, until the next time, y'all remember to like, share, comment, go back, watch some of the old videos. If you like what you see, maybe consider giving us a subscribe. And until the next time, guys, y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and hey, thanks for watching.